So, have you ever felt like there were two people living inside of you? One part saying, I'm going to eat healthy this week. And then immediately another part jumps in and says, just have the cookies, just do it. And then another part jumps in and says, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just be disciplined? Why can't you stick to eating a certain way? Why can't you just have some more willpower? And if this sounds familiar to you, it's not that you're crazy. It's not that you're broken. It's that you have different protective parts of you that come into play as you navigate food. They're trying to help you, but they're using strategies that don't work anymore. Today, I want to show you why these parts exist and how transforming them can help you heal your emotional eating. Most emotional eating programs focus on changing your behavior. Eat this, don't eat that, try to have more willpower, control your cravings. But emotional eating at its root is not really about the food. Food was simply a strategy you adopted to help you feel safe around emotions, when emotions felt overwhelming, when you felt uncomfortable. So the real question isn't really, why can't I stop eating? The question is, what part of me believes food is the safest solution I have right now? None of us are born with an inner critic. We're not born believing we're not good enough. We're not born believing we have to earn love or be approved so we can have love. Those are beliefs we learn through our experience. So maybe you grew up with criticism. Maybe love felt conditional to you. Maybe you learned you had to take care of everyone else to get some attention. Maybe you felt your emotions weren't welcomed or you had to hide them. As children, because of the way our brain develops, we don't have the ability to tell ourselves, oh, this is my parent saying this. This is how I work through my emotions. Developmentally, we need our parents or caregivers to actually help us move through this, to be a loving, safe, accepting space so that we don't develop this internal critic, so that we know how to move through our emotions and know that they're okay. But when we don't have this, we start developing these protective parts to help us maintain this connection to our parents and caregivers, because as a child, we depend on them for our survival. And the way our psyche works is that we start internalizing these messages of we're not good enough, or we should be a certain way, or if we do this behavior, we'll get some sense of love or acceptance, or we'll be able to survive. And so we start forming a part of us into this sort of persona. So we'll have a part of us that will criticize us before our parents get a chance to. And that gives us a sense of power and control that we wouldn't normally have. We start we create this part of us to help us manage so that we can survive, we can cope in an environment that we're not getting our deeper needs met. So if you were praised or you saw that you were okay, if you were really perfect, you did really well, you might create a part of you that is a perfectionist. And so you have to make sure everything is done well, because if it's not, you might get criticized by your parents or caregivers. And then there might be a part of you that decides if you're really hard on yourself, if you work extra hard, if you make sure to be one step ahead, you might not feel rejection. And then there might be a part of you that's like, oh, when I go to food, it feels better when I'm feeling these uncomfortable emotions, when I'm feeling stressed. And so you go to food. And food, the part of you that wants to go to food, is usually very interconnected to these other parts, because whenever we decide we have to be a certain way, it goes against who we truly are, and that creates a sense of disconnect and emotional pain in and of itself that we then need to go to food to soothe. So imagine if you're a people pleaser and you feel obligated to help someone, even though you might not have the energy or the bandwidth or might not actually want to do that, but you force yourself to do it, you're going against yourself. And so there are emotions going to develop. You might feel anger, you might feel resentment, you might feel no one cares about you. And so you do the task to get the reward that you may not ever get. No one can ever kind of take away those emotions. And then when you're left with those emotions, you go to food to soothe. And so this is this vicious cycle. And, in a situation like that, in order to not go to food to soothe, you would have to stand up for yourself. You would have to have boundaries, and that takes a different level of work. You would have to start looking at this pattern in a different way. You would start to have to become more of who you actually are, which might leave room for feelings of rejection. And so we can see how the emotions start layering on, and not being able to work through them can hold you stuck in these sort of strategies you've developed. And so fighting these parts of you, it doesn't work. And this is where a lot of women get stuck. Like I just mentioned, maybe if you are a people pleaser, you decide I have to have boundaries. But by having boundaries, you set yourself up internally to feel I might get rejected. And so it's not about fighting these parts of you. It's actually about moving through the discomfort, the distress, the uncomfortable emotions that might come up. And if you don't know how to do that, and you've always relied on food, you're going to turn to food. And so food and you turning to food is the only way you know how to soothe and take care of yourself. So fighting against it, removing the only coping mechanism you have, is actually really cruel to you unless you're learning these deeper skills and doing the deeper work to actually move through the discomfort. And so when you try to fight for example, the inner critic, and you try to tell them to stop, you have to recognize that this is now a part of you that you've taken in. And you took it in a way to try to help yourself be the person you thought you had to be in a certain environment so you wouldn't get that criticism externally. It gave you a sense of power and control. And of course, it's not healthy for you. It's not helping you in your day-to-day life. But that's the origin of it. And you need to get in touch with that part of you and start letting it know that you no longer need to be that way, that you can actually mature and transform and change and give it that opportunity. But this is all done in a very deep way in the body, through parts work, through somatic work, where you're actually almost reparenting this part. You can think about it as a child. If they have a parent, they're guiding them, they're growing and evolving. And we can do that to these younger parts of ourselves that, these parts were developed when we're very young to help us stay safe because they didn't have healthy modeling. They didn't know how to be, kind to themselves because they didn't have that externally. And so when you fight these parts of you internally, they get stronger. It's this internal battle, and it's like you try to fight your emotional eating, it's going to get louder because that part doesn't know any other way to meet your needs but through food. And so if you are feeling uncomfortable, more emotions are building up, it's very stressful, it's going to be more powerful because these parts, you have to understand, have been there for a very long time and they're subconscious. They have 95% power. And so you consciously are coming in with willpower saying, no, I'm not going to be this way. You're only holding 5% of the power. You have to work with this in a very deep way to start transforming this very powerful part of you. And so fighting it is not going to be the answer. Willpowering in real time is not going to be the answer. We need a more compassionate way of helping these parts transform. And so this was a big shift for me. I had to start transforming consciously how I viewed these parts of myself. I had to have more compassion and understanding of where do they come from and why are they doing what they're doing. And that's an awareness level. But when you do the deeper work, you're understanding these parts. You're not trying to fight them. And in understanding them, in seeing what they're trying to accomplish for you, you can actually give them new ways of meeting those needs. And most of the times, these parts are very young. They don't want to be doing what they're doing. It's very tiring. It's exhausting for them to operate in this way. And you can start giving them a new way of being. Sometimes these parts integrate into the wholeness of you because you're coming in now as the adult, as the parent they needed, and you can meet those needs. So they might not need to do anything. They might just integrate. They might want to be a child. They might take on a role of advocating for you. And so they become an ally in your process versus what you viewed as working against you. Usually these protective parts of you are protecting your deeper core self, your your emotions, your vulnerable self. And so when you just pull them away, who is protecting that younger part of you? You have to become that person that can do that. Otherwise, you're creating a lot of chaos inside of your psyche. You're creating that internal battle that is going to feel like a constant tug of war. And these parts are very strong. Like I said, you're going to be pulled back again and again into them and be frustrated unless you learn how to be a different parent to yourself. And so how do we start transforming these parts? When we are coming in as, that parent or caregiver that can actually start meeting the deeper needs, the protective part doesn't have that role anymore. It can start transforming. It can start letting go, and we can access the more vulnerable parts of us and start creating that loving relationship. This might take time and consistency. Think about creating trust with yourself. Think about creating this healthy relationship with yourself. We talk about relationships and people being emotionally unavailable. Are you emotionally unavailable to yourself? It's doing this deeper work so you are creating this healthy relationship, seeing, hearing, validating, understanding yourself, being present, having patience and compassion, everything a child would have wanted from a parent. It's what you need to give to yourself to start creating this healthy relationship, this trusting relationship that you no longer start coping with emotions. You're not looking to cope with emotions using band-aids like food. You actually start meeting your deeper needs. You actually start giving that to yourself. And of course, this is not you just jump into this process. When I'm working with clients, I'm modeling this to them. I am guiding them through this process. I'm creating that container, and it's almost like that relationship we create that you can take into yourself. It's what you would have needed as a child to start creating this for yourself, to start modeling this so that eventually you would have been able to do this for yourself. You're sort of starting the process from step one so that you can rebuild this internal relationship. As we do this process, the parts of you internally start realizing, oh, this is what I've always wanted. This is what I've needed. And so the more you show up in that, it starts trusting and starts releasing any coping mechanisms. And this is how food can start being food. You start feeling at ease in your body because you're not gripping onto emotions. It is how you become more whole internally. And this is not about just being aware of these parts. It's actually starting to transform them and helping them to grow. Just like you learn and grow and experience things, you're doing this internally as well. And so if you've been battling yourself for years, there's a better way. You don't have to fight yourself. You don't have to criticize yourself. You don't have to fight your inner critic. You can start to integrate these parts of you and start transforming them. When you start understanding you created these parts of you to help you survive. And now we can look at this and create a new way forward. And so this is what I do with clients inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program. We're doing this with a step-by-step process where you are looking at these parts of you, you're integrating them, we're transforming them, we're meeting the deeper needs. So food is no longer a band-aid. And as you do this, you're also learning to relate to food and your body in a healthier way and letting that be food and your body and not being triggered into emotional eating. And so as you do this work, you are looking at the parts of you. You are no longer going to food to soothe. You are transforming them and meeting your deeper needs. And this results in feeling at ease and peace around food and in your body. And so inside of the program, it is a 12-week process. There are weekly office hours. There is the step-by-step process. There are one-to-one sessions with me and the deeper tools to help you go into this pattern and start transforming it. We're not trying to white knuckle. We're trying to change and transform and integrate this pattern so that it's no longer a coping mechanism. So if you'd like to find out more about the program, you can find out more below. And as a next step, if you're ready to really start resolving this pattern and you're looking for that support and guidance, I'd love to invite you to book in an emotional eating clarity call. On the call, I will find out more about you, your journey, what you've tried, and I can share how I can help support you in this journey. So if you'd like to book in that call, you can find the links below, and you can find out more about the program below as well. I just want to say, if you have any questions, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.